Hi, I'm Kiwi,
And I'm Jarad.
and we are the two gentlemen. Coming to you like a hurricane. Jarad, how are you?
I'm well, mate. I'm well. I actually, you just literally blown my mind. I had a dream that I was in a hurricane. Like
Oh,
that's
really?
crazy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that there you go.
We're in sync.
And it's like, yeah, must be. That's kind of weird, but yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. Sorry, I'm just getting over that mind blown section. Yeah, yeah, no worries on my end, mate. I'm working our way towards Christmas, and yeah, all the little things that come along with that. So all the family time and the parties and things like that we go to. So we're very lucky, and yeah, getting ready for that. What about yourself?
Going through a few things
Mm.
that, like I told you in the last episode, I wasn't
Yeah,
allowed to talk about. Still working through all that sort of stuff,
yeah,
but I'm enjoying a lot of time with my family, which has been lovely. So I've got
yeah, yeah,
another beach day organized today. It's
yeah.
pretty good weather out there, so I'm looking forward to it. So there's a spot
Good.
we go to called Northbridge Baths. I don't know if anyone goes there, but it's really lovely. We went there at high tide the other day, and it's just paradise. So yeah, back today. Looking forward to it.
Sounds good. Sounds like fun. I think I might have to crash your party one day.
Definitely, you're always welcome, Jarad.
Yeah, but I bring like a family with me too. They're noisy
Oh,
and all the serenity would disappear.
well, I get on very well with your family, so that would be lovely.
True.
So, Jarad, I had a great day last week. I didn't actually mention this to you, I completely forgot. I met up
Hmm.
with a guy that I just randomly met who happens to be roughly my height, a little bit heavier than me, and he's a
Hmm.
martial artist. He's a
Okay.
lifelong martial artist. He's been practicing, for the last probably, I think he said 25 years or something, or even longer. He's also an amazing guitarist. I haven't got permission to give him a plug or anything or his name, but he's a professional musician. So I'll meet up with him again and ask him if I can mention his name on the podcast. But anyway, we met randomly and he asked me if I spar. And I said, oh, yeah, I haven't sparred for however long. It's been 17 years since I've done a kickboxing bout.
Yeah. Wow.
But, I was like, I'm happy to, meet up with you. Anyway, he provided the shin guards for me, which I don't have. And I brought along everything else. And yeah, we did some cardio, we did some training, did some drills, and then we had 2 rounds of sparring. And it was so much fun. I haven't had that
That's
much fun in
cool.
ages, and it was really nice to train with someone who knows how to spar.
Yeah.
But the hazard with sparring, as everybody knows, is you get that guy. I was about to say that young guy, but no, I shouldn't discriminate based on age. It's not always a young guy, so I'm going to scrap that one. You get that guy who feels like he's got something to prove.
Yep.
He's like, I need to win sparring. You can't win sparring, by the way, everybody. Sparring, you're there to help your teammate, help somebody prepare for a fight, perhaps. But, in the case of two old blokes training,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you can't win. It's just two guys trying to, test out their reflexes, get a bit healthy, and, just have fun, basically. I had a
Hmm.
ball. I gassed out several times in 2-minute rounds, by the way. The last time I was like, I'm done. I just had to lie down on the grass. But it was so
uh,
much fun. And I think what worked was it was two guys who knew what they were doing, who had no egos.
yeah.
Neither of us had anything to prove. So I just want to ask you, Jarad, at the age of 42, is there anything left to prove?
Well, firstly, I want to. Yeah, did you win? No. How'd you go?
Yeah,
So,
I won. Yeah, I beat him. Yeah.
And secondly, he sounds like an upgraded version of you. Like, when you put yourself into like, yeah, make me stronger. But he's like professional guitarist, martial artist currently, a little bit bigger.
Not only that, he's also an awesome surfer. So in the three
Oh,
things that I would really love to excel at, he's got me on every single one of them.
he's got a multi award winning podcast too, has he?
He's actually got the three gentlemen. He's got more friends than me.
If that's not enough fuel to burn your fire, what to prove, mate? I don't know what would be. Yeah. Look, back to your question. What have you got to prove as an old man? No, as a 42-year-old man. Yeah, sometimes you feel like it's sort of an idol you idle along to, don't you? Like once oh yeah, I've done this, I've done that. Now it's just make sure I stay healthy, make sure my family are provided for, make sure everything is working around the house, in your little bubble. You do have moments where you go outside that bubble. So, I mean, I still play competitive sports, so to a certain degree. So I would like to win that game.
Mm-hmm.
We went through and won the competition last season. So we want to do it again. So I think, for me, I'm not ultra competitive. It's just ultimately, when I'm in the moment, I may get to that point. So when I'm in that moment that you're in, maybe if I was sparring someone, I'd be like, oh, he got me there. I'm going to try and not be got that time, and it's in the smaller sort of, space, I guess. I don't have a real good answer in regards to what I've got to prove. And for me, it's just, like I said, just making sure everything is running smoothly. If you come across a bump in the road, and that's in any of part of your life, I guess you want to overcome that bump. So, like I said, it's in a smaller sort of scale that, like, okay, I've got to get over that bump, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
That challenge. But yeah, it's sort of, it's not really mapped out for our age, I don't think. I think it's within, and it's from the experiences that we're having day to day. If that makes sense. I don't know. It makes sense in my head.
Yeah. You want to prove that you've got the resilience to survive this world still. And obviously it doesn't come up as much as it used to, because you've had a job, you've bought a house, you've bought a car, you've managed to meet somebody. But when you're first out of school or whatever it is, it's like, I've never done any of these things. Can I do it? Do I have it in me? Whereas now, those things are kind of a given, aren't they? You do have the survival skills and the skills to procreate even. You've created more life. So you don't have to prove that anymore.
Well, it's not mapped out, yeah. So, like, as a younger person, you're like, okay, I've got to finish school. That's a challenge. That's whatever. If I want to do this, then I've got to go to university, and you get there, and then you get your job, and then you find it, not in this order, but then you find, everything kind of comes together in a perfect world. If, none of us have a perfect life, but yeah, it's all sort of mapped out in front of us. Once you have all that and you're happy and you're content, then I think it's important to still find that drive for things. Because I think you can end up just taking things for granted and, becoming a little bit, can't think of the word, but dormant, maybe.
Yeah. Stagnant.
Yeah. In your environment that you've created. And that's awesome that you've created that environment. But I think it's healthy to find sort of new challenges, other than just the ones that sort of turn up. So whether it be just a little, whether it be you're into sports or learning something different on learning an instrument, or you're pretty good at that sort of stuff. Like, you want to surf, you go and learn to surf, I think it's important, but who are you proving that to? I think that's, you're not out there crowing about going, look how wonderful I am, I can do this. It's more of just a personal journey.
Well, you say that, but in our generation, how many of us post every single little thing on social media?
Yeah.
Really. And I think it's warped a lot of what we do. We get a reward for the social feedback rather than our own internal growth. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with sharing your journey with people. I don't mean it like that, but it's really important that if your video that you put up about yourself, I don't know, learning to surf or whatever, doesn't get a million likes, that's okay too. If nobody comments on it, well, that's all right. As long as you're growing, that's fine.
If that's part of the recognition is part of your growth, that's okay. And the world we're in makes it a lot easier to get recognition and also to be told we're doing it wrong, or all that sort of stuff, because it's right at people's fingertips, and you're putting it out there to be assessed, essentially. And most of the time, if you put a video of you catching your first wave or playing your first song on the guitar, people are going to be pretty happy for you, whether they comment or not.
Yeah.
But knowing it's out there in the universe and it's been, I guess it's there for people to see is probably part of it. Like it's a nice, warm and fuzzy feeling, I guess. Like I said, I'm going back to the original question. I've got no sort of way of sort of saying I've got anything to prove. I yeah, repeating myself. I just look at things as they come towards me.
Yeah. I think for me, I think I need to believe in magic, basically. And that's to believe that, from nothing, something can happen. And sometimes it's so unbelievable that, especially when you're in a particular situation, you're like, really, I can get there? Like when I first picked up a guitar, I never thought I'd be able to do anything, not because I don't believe in myself or anything, but because it's such a distance from nothing to even strumming Mary Had a Little Lamb or something like that, right? Now, the other day, because I told you before, I was trying to learn to read music and I could sight read a song. Now, when I say that, it's just a very basic song. It was Little Drummer Boy. I was just doing some Christmas carols, but, I couldn't read music at the beginning of this year. And to me, that was almost like magic, right? It was doing something that I couldn't do before. And all of a sudden, boom. And I was pretty flowing. Like there was a period where I didn't even know the notes on a guitar. And now not only do I know where the notes are, but I can play them as I read them in a different format to what I could ever read in the past. So I think that's what I need to prove to myself, that magic can happen. And that's a really big deal. Like, catching a wave for the first time to me was a really big deal. And, other people take that for granted. I see kids who are 5 years old. Like, there's footage of this 4-year-old kid in Hawaii catching bigger waves than I'll ever catch. And to me, it's magical when these new things happen. So I think that's my biggest thing, to prove that new things, those epic big things can happen. I remember when I got to the pyramids when I was 20 years old, I was like, this is amazing. I can't believe I got here. This is something I learnt about in school. It's something I read about as a child. And now I'm actually in the Great Pyramid where, thousands of years of history have taken place. That it's incredible. The amount of,
it is incredible.
The historical figures that have, set eyes on the pyramids. And here I am in one. So that was amazing. It was like magic had happened.
Yep.
And I think that's what I need in my life. I just need to believe that special things can happen.
And look, that's really cool. I really like the way that you said that. And I guess what really bounced to me while you were speaking then wasn't, I was listening to what you were saying, but it just kept coming towards me, and I don't know whether it's some kind of like, like thing happening in my mind, but I was like, let people enjoy, like just kept let people enjoy their magic. Like, so I don't know whether that's something like, I'm going to a different part of this is like, don't squash people's magic. Like, I think you mentioned that there was a 4-year-old boy that could surf or could catch waves bigger than you. If when he turns 21 and you guys meet and you're like, oh, I caught this wave, and you're excited, that just because he's done it before doesn't mean that it's not magic for you. Like it's all a personal sort of thing.
That's right.
And I guess I'm just trying to say, like, I think people experience their own, in your words, magic when they, succeed or do things or overcome things or whatever it might be. But for whatever reason in my head, I was just like, don't ruin other people's magic. So not sure where I'm sort of heading, but I think it's important to let them bask in their little bit of glory, whatever it may be. Whether it's if it's something that you've done before and you think it's really easy, you know what? It's not for them. It's not for that person. And you might do something that is really simple to someone else. And, it's nice to let that magic stick around.
Yeah, 100%. I've got another YouTube channel, and whenever I get a view or something, I'm like, oh, wow, I got this many views. And my son, whose YouTube channel generates revenue, like that's how well he's doing. He's really nice about it. He's like, oh, wow, that's great. I'm really happy for you, Dad.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And it's not patronizing in any way. He's not going, oh, well, I'll pat you on the head.
Wow.
But, he's also very honest. Like I was saying, oh, wow, to monetize a channel, you need 4,000 hours of public views. I'm like, wow, that's like too much. And he's like, I get that much in a week. So, when I look at
Yeah,
our downloads, I'm like, oh wow, like, compared to
yeah,
his views, it's like, well, it's
yeah,
not a lot. But when you
yeah.
came to me and you do this quite often, you'll tell me, oh, I bumped into this guy, or you'll send me a text about a friend of yours or even not even a friend, but someone vaguely,
Yep.
who has sent you a text saying, oh mate, love the show or whatever.
Mm.
To me, that's a bit of magic.
Yep.
Now, we don't do this show to prove how gentlemanly we are or anything. We do it because, we want to reconnect and we want to share a friendship with other people.
Yep.
But that kind of is like, well, it kind of validates us, doesn't it? Not like
It
we
is.
need it, but it's definitely
No,
nice and it's magical.
it is. It is. When you receive that message or that text from somebody and they say, "Oh yeah, love the show," um, or they send a photo of the actual they've got it on Spotify and it's playing or something, and they wouldn't have heard. We wouldn't be. They wouldn't have heard our voices or heard our opinions if it wasn't for this. So, or heard our thoughts or heard our friendship or heard whatever it might be. They wouldn't have been subjected. I don't know if that's the right word
Yeah.
to us our rambles, but it's nice to know that yeah, that one person or two people or whatever it might be, but yeah, if we said this to Joe Rogan, he'd be like, "What? Who cares?" Like,
Yeah.
sorry, I shouldn't say that. He might be a nice guy, but yeah, like if we said that to somebody who gets thousands of views and thousands of likes and thousands of this, it would mean a lot less to them, But yeah, you're right. It is pretty awesome and pretty magical that we can do this, and yeah, we don't do it for something to prove.
No, definitely not.
We don't want to prove anything for it. It's just a matter of, like we've always said, it's just a matter of us having a chat. And yeah, yeah, that's it. Full stop.
Now, that's not to say I don't have anything in my life to prove. I think the
Yep.
biggest thing for me is, like, when I break it down, I guess I feel like I need to prove that my ideas are worth sharing.
Mm-hmm.
So I've written a novel, as you know. I've got a YouTube channel where I share all sorts of stuff. I've got this show with you where I share
Mm-hmm.
things. I have many conversations with people just in general where I share ideas. And I mean, I guess I'm not conscious of it that I want to get out there and, prove something like to the market. But
Mm-hmm.
I guess you wouldn't have a YouTube channel or a podcast if you didn't want to
Yep.
share that. So I feel that that's the next stage of my evolution. And I guess when I say next stage, it's been the stage for, the last 2 decades where I've tried to write things where I want to share ideas with people.
Mm.
So I guess that's the biggest thing in my life, to become a published author. And it's not just because I want a physical book in bookstores. It's because I think I need the world to say, yeah, I liked hearing that. I like that idea. That was a good concept. Here you go. Here's some, credits for that. I think that's my next point. Whereas, if it was sport, it's like you want to prove that you're good enough to be on the field. You want to prove
Mm-hmm.
you're good enough to get on the court. I've proved now that I'm good enough to sit at a chessboard, even though I do it online. But, it's the same
Yeah.
thing. Like, I started playing chess last year, got destroyed by this guy, my neighbor, who's been teaching me how to play. And then the last 9 games we played, we've gone 7-2, where I've won 7, he's won 2.
Wow. Yeah.
And since, for a while now, I've beaten him most of the time. So I guess I kind of proved to myself that I can learn new tricks.
Yep.
But for the ultimate prize for me is to prove that my ideas are worth sharing.
Right.
And, to say that out loud, that's probably the first time I've ever said that in my
I was
whole
about
life.
to say that's quite a revelation.
Yeah. And it sounds egotistical, like, oh, I've got this to prove. And I remember a comedian saying, saying you want to be a comedian is a bit like saying you want to be a model. Yeah, it's like, you've definitely got tickets on yourself. So yeah, sure, I get it. But yeah, I've said it out loud now. So do whatever you want with that world.
Well, I'm still reeling, mate. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, it's a funny one because sometimes we don't actively know we want to prove something. I think it's within. And I thought of something again while you're speaking, and I remember before I spoke to you about doing this podcast, I spoke to my wife about I'd like to do a podcast again. I did one earlier with like a paranormally based one, and I wanted to do something a little bit more broad, a little bit more real, and
You're saying
a
the
little bit
paranormal's
more.
not real, Jared?
I was about to say I'll choose those words incorrectly there, but it's something that sort of was a little bit more relatable to more people.
Yeah.
And but I didn't have the so that's something that I wanted to do. So obviously that's something I wanted to prove that I could do it. And I know I was sort of throwing out the ideas of like whether I'd do this, try and do something on my own, and then I'm like, well, I can't do like this isn't the style I wanted to do, and I wanted to have a back and forth with somebody, and this is how this kind of part of this how this evolved, you know, and but I think that burning desire of like wanting to do something is wanting to prove something a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's not as slap in your face. Like it's not as much of a slap in your face as like going out on a rugby field and someone is running at you full force and you hit them with everything you got. You know,
Yeah.
that's like I'm going to prove I'm stronger than you physically. You know, and that part of my life is gone. I'm not going to go back out on the rugby field and and do that with that same mindset ever again. So for me, this stokes doing things like this and doing other like the little challenges I tell you about. Doing that stokes that fire of wanting to prove something or wanting to succeed at something. But yeah, it's not as intense as what it used to be when we were younger, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think we have definitely proven that we can go the distance. That's something we can get out of this. We haven't set the world on fire, but I feel like our existence is validated, and maybe that's the key. When there's no reason to be born. Like I do these videos on the meaning of life, and it's really hard to pinpoint how what the purpose of it all is. And I'm on my third iteration. I'm making YouTube shorts now, so I've got to get it down to 1 minute to cover the meaning of life in 1 minute when people spend 10,000 years of civilization trying to cover it. It's pretty tricky, but it's
a bit of a challenge. Yeah.
But it's so much of it is proving that you're worthy of existing. I feel that so much of our time, our childhoods, then we've got to prove that we can get a partner who's willing to procreate with us, to pass on our genes. Like you're saying, my genetic material is worth existing in this world. And, there are some genetic lines that come to an end, and it's kind of sad. Like one of our neighbors died and neither of her sons had children, and they're quite elderly themselves now. And so there's no chance of that. And I thought about it, and like, that's her line finished. That gene pool will, maybe it exists somewhere as, like a distant cousin or whatever, but that's it. And you think of it from an evolution point of view, it's like you're not good enough, and I'm not saying that I mean that. I'm just saying like evolution would look at it that way. If it did have eyes, it would say, well, you weren't good enough to continue. Yeah. So much of our lives is just proving that you've got a place here in life. Yep.
And a place after, I think, like you said. But yeah, it's it is. And it's I think that's the crux of it. I think we just want to prove to ourselves and prove that we are able to do it, what we set our mind to. Like I always sort of revert back to things, but like, I know I started doing a bit of personal training, and like, it was like what was it? These negative push-ups. Have you ever heard of negative push-ups, by the way? Just for me, negative push-ups.
Is that where you go really slow down?
Where you don't do it? Yeah, you go slow down. Yeah.
You don't.
I was like, sweet, I can do negative push-ups.
You lie on your back and you do this.
I can do 4 million. I can do 4 million. Yeah, whatever. But yeah, it turns out they're a thing. And but I had to prove that she said to me, you can do, like at the last set was like, we're doing 10. You can stop at 5 if you want. I'm like, all right. I get to 5 and I was pretty sore.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'll do it. And then I was like, and she's like, you can stop there if you want. As I was doing it, I'm like, nah, I'm not stopping. And I get to 10. Now that's probably her little designed little motivational thing, and
Yeah.
she's like, "Oh no, it's okay, I'm fine with it." There was no like yelling and screaming, "You won't stop," But it was it was using my little bit of you know fueling my thing there just to keep going. Yeah, it was pretty cool. And I was like, no, I'm not stopping. I'm not stopping. I've got this far.
And what did you have to prove? Was that you've got the fire? Can you consciously say it now that you had something to prove?
It was one of those moments in time that you're like, this next 3 seconds or 10 seconds, I'm gonna dominate this,
Yeah.
and then at the end of that 10 seconds, it was done. So, yeah,
Was that for
that was
you
it.
or was that for her?
Well, looking back, I don't know. It's probably for me, probably for my ego. A little bit of like, no,
Yep.
I'm not stopping.
Yep.
Whatever drove me that for that 10 seconds, that's what it's like. Well, no, this is I'm training. You're training me. I'm not gonna. You told me to do this much. I'll do this much. Yeah. So it's for my little ego at that point. I think maybe.
Yeah, that's really cool, Jarad. And I'm glad you've still got that. At 42, that you've still got to prove to yourself that I can push myself when I want to. When I need to redline, I can redline. And when I can't redline anymore, I will go a little bit more. That's an amazing thing to have. I think every man or woman needs beast mode because you never know when you need those adrenals to kick in and, run from a burning building or run into a burning building to rescue a baby.
Agree. I think the trouble is, I think that red line is a little bit lower these days. Yeah, like that's the problem. But yeah. I red line after the warm up.
Yeah, look, to be honest with you, I feel the same. Like I can't, hit what I used to. I remember I've got a video which I showed you of me doing my biggest deadlift ever. I was 56 kilos and I deadlifted 125 kilos. I've never done 115 kilos since.
Yep.
That was it. But that was the end of everything for me. But you know what? I kind of feel like I went out on a huge high.
There's nothing more to prove.
It was 221% of my body weight. And I spoke to a power lifter down at the gym and he did 219% of his body weight. So I thought, pound for pound, that's not bad. So I feel like in terms of the gym and weights, I've got nothing left to prove. In terms of sparring, I've got more to prove because I never sparred with a lot of tactics. I always relied on speed and reflexes when I sparred. I never relied on tactics. And now since playing chess, I realize how much of life should be strategic and tactical. Yeah. And, I look at life through a completely different lens now. It's like, wow, I wish I'd seen it like this before. Chess has taught me so much. You hear that expression, people are playing 4D chess these days, and that's how you've got to do it. You've got to play that long game as well as take advantage of tactics when they appear. But anyway, back to proving stuff. I talked about, I wanted to believe that magic existed. The other thing I'm trying to prove, and it's not to myself, it's to everybody, that you can grow. You can choose something completely new, completely foreign, something you're not good at, something you're not natural at, and then get good at it. So of all people to pick up a guitar, I've got short fingers. I'm not naturally good at music. I've never played a musical instrument in my life. Like I never looked at playing a guitar until I was 37. I started properly about 2 years ago. And now I can read music and I know where the notes are almost all the way up and down the neck. And to be able to sight read, I know it's only, little things like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star and Jingle Bells and Little Drummer Boy, but it's a start. So one day I'll build on that. And I've proven to myself that I can build. So the reason why I'm saying that I'm doing this for everybody is because if I can do it, some bum who doesn't know anything about music can do it, then anyone can do anything. So anybody listening to this, the evidence is out there. We can grow. Magic does happen. Special things do happen for you. And, it's just about chipping away. And sorry to go on this rant, but I've been watching the Soccer World Cup. Sorry to call it soccer. This is Australia. It's soccer to us. No, I should be more politically correct. I've been watching the Football World Cup.
FIFA World Cup. Yeah.
And, what I've learned from football, it's very hard for me to call it that. What I've learned from football is that as long as you're alive, you've got a chance. The trick is to stay alive And in
Yeah,
this
yeah.
life, as long as you're alive, you can do it. And I
Mm.
was watching games where, you know, how hard it is to score a goal where someone scores at the death.
Yep.
And as long as they're alive and they've got a chance to get that ball in the back of the net, it changes everything. The entire
Yep.
game will change on one little moment.
One moment.
So hang in there, everybody. You know, no matter what it is. Like I think I've got enough proof that
Mm.
magic happens. And soccer has certainly shown me that as long as you're alive, you can turn things around.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm an
Yep.
evidence-based guy, man.
And you called it soccer again. Sorry. I think it's sort of pretty clear, as we went through this conversation, clear as mud, that you know we all are still trying to prove something to a certain degree. It's just a level of proof. Uh, some people, like you said, you once you know that you can play the guitar, you've played it, you've conquered it as such, to a certain degree, or sorry, the weightlifting as well too. Like you knew you got to that point and that was the limit. You've proven it. You can do it. You've done it. Now you can step away from it. Because I suppose in life we can't just keep everything up. Like once you're able to surf, you can go, okay, I can put that aside now. I know I've been able to do it. If I ever want to come back to that, I can try, I can attempt. Same with your guitar at the moment or chess. You might be like, okay, for me with football, it's done.
Yeah.
With rugby, it's done. To a certain degree. And I know that I will never, get to where I was there again, but I was there. I was at that point. So I suppose we've all still got little things and little challenges in life to prove. And, I think that keeps us going and keeps us, if I don't want to say it, but keeps us young, to a certain degree and keeps that adrenaline, all those things that go through your body that makes you, the hormones or whatever that makes you like do what you do, it keeps you alive. It really does. And, I think the moment you lose that, you might, you will become stagnant and dormant. And I think it's important to keep that going. You hear about it a lot. Sometimes people may have, had a big situation in their life where they may have lost something or lost somebody. And it's like, oh, we've got to get them back into a hobby or get them doing something or like, I think that's the basis of that is just gets your blood pumping again.
Exactly.
So, keep it up and, keep those little challenges, whatever they may be. It might be just, might be something really small to somebody else, but, to you, that's your experience and your challenge. So don't ever, look down on yourself because somebody's done it easily or someone's done it before you or whatever it might be.
Exactly. Live your life relative to you.
Yep.
Awesome, Jarad. Thank you so much for joining me again, Jarad. It's always a pleasure. Thank you to all our listeners who have joined us yet again. We love hearing from you, whether privately or on Facebook or Twitter. Please get in contact with us. Carl, it's been really nice reconnecting with you, sending you little texts about the football World Cup. My commiserations about England. England played fantastically. They were an excellent team, and I think they've got a really bright future. And I think in 2 years from now, the Euro Championships, I think they'll do really well. So great to hear from you, Carl.
Same, mate. See you later.
Thanks, Jarad.
See you, mate.